My adopted sister won the Elixir challenge by stealing my potion. To her shock, she was informed that the event was a selection event for the future wife of the Serpentkins' future head, the same heir who was infamously impotent, barbaric, and furious. When the Serpentkins sent over a proposal letter demanding her hand in marriage, my fiance panicked and promptly took my adopted sister away for a quick marriage and even consummated. Once the deed was done, she returned triumphantly, showing off the mark on her lower back. Well, what are you going to do now, Winnie? Your fiancé is mine now, and you'll be 25 in 3 days. If no one comes to pick you up, you'll just be dumped into the hands of some wife-beating rogue who is aging and unwanted. Actually, she was wrong. I had a choice. I went to the parlor where my parents, who were busy fixing the mess my adopted sister made, were announcing, if she refuses to marry the future head of the Serpentkins, I will. My words could have been a clap of thunder. My father, still holding the Serpentkins' proposal letter, froze in the air. My mother was left gaping, her tail bristling as she cried.
Have you lost your mind, Winnie? Ebony is born and bloodthirsty. There were rumors that he almost rose bit through a servant's throat when he snapped. It's suicide.
I was about to argue when my father cleared his throat.
You're right. Sirius and Lola have marked each other. What would happen to them if Winnie doesn't marry?
A look of conflict briefly flashed in my mother's eyes, and she slowly let go of my hand. My heart grew cold in turn. Even though I was their biological daughter, they had always preferred Lola even though she was adopted, just because she knew how to sweet talk and play the damsel in distress. As I stood there, a heated memory suddenly flooded my mind unbuilding, making my cheeks burn with unwanted heat. That night, months ago,
You're driving me crazy.
he had growled huskily against my neck, his breath's bodies moved together in a feverish rhythm, slow and deep at first, then faster and harder. Skin slid against sweat-slicked skin, heavy breaths turning into moans and gasps that filled the room. Every powerful thrust made my tails curl tightly around his waist, pulling him even closer as ecstasy built higher and higher inside me. The memory tasted bitter now, like ash in my mouth. Smirking, I said, but on one condition.
On the day I'm marrying, you will make Lola confess in public that she stole my potion.
How can you be so vile? You'll destroy your sister's reputation.
Although my mother looked at me with disappointment too, I simply smirked.
It's like the letter says, the future head to the Serpentkins desires to marry the one who made the potion. She should learn not to be greedy. What does she want for the rest of her life? Fame or a happy marriage?
My parents eventually gave in for Lola's sake. I turned around and left without hesitation, only to run into Sirius stepping out of Lola's room down the hallway. He was dressed in disheveled clothes, an obvious sense of awkwardness hanging over him, and the scent of Lola's rose camphune was thick in the air around him. One could easily imagine what they had been doing for the past 3 days. However, seeing me wrinkle my nose in disgust and starting to leave, Sirius promptly stopped me and sighed.
I know you're upset, but this is the only way I can save Lola. You know how obsessed the Serpentkins can get, but marking Lola would discourage even Ebony.
I stopped in my tracks, bitterness rising from my heart to my throat, choking me until I couldn't speak. I slowly lifted my head and looked at him. The man I had once given my whole heart to. My voice was soft, but every word trembled.
So, what about me?
Sirius and I should have marked each other since I was 20, but Lola would do something to delay us at every turn. Now, I was almost 25, and he had marked Lola at the very last possible moment. As such, there were only 2 options waiting for me at this point: to marry a rogue or the future head of the Serpentkins. The only dead ends before me were being matched with a wandering orc or marrying the young master of the snake tribe. Even as Sirius blinked in guilt, he quickly grabbed my hands as he exclaimed,
It's okay. I won't let you marry some rogue. I'll mark you as my slave so you can live with me without needing to marry. Don't worry, it's just a formality. When you move in with me, I'll treat you the same as I do with Lola.
I laughed despite my rage. How could he be so despicable? Only exiled beast folk who had committed heinous crimes would ever choose the slave mark, which was also a humiliation in itself. They were no more than merchandise that could be sold at one's pleasure, and they would always remain inferior to other beast folks for the rest of their lives. Even their children could only be slaves in the future. I knocked his hand away.
Never!
He's snapping at me.
What's your problem? Don't you love me? Or is your dignity that much more important than being with me?
I retorted. Really? Then why didn't you mark Lola as a slave? That would have saved her too. Sirius bullered before he knew it.
How could you even say that? A slave? A delicate maiden like her should be given all the world's attention and kindness without an ounce of grief.
Years of accumulated grievous left my eyes reddened. Just because she was a delicate rabbitkin, while I was the only 9-tailed foxling clan blessed with 9 lives and exuberance. That was why our parents and even my own fiancé favored her, while telling me I could endure all the grievances because of who I was. The contempt in my eyes really stung Sirius just then, and he growled.
You had better reflect on that added soon. You have no other choice anyway.
After Sirius left, I headed downstairs, my mind in a daze. That was when my parents handed me a gift from the Serpentkins, a love bracelet. It was the same bracelet that I had failed to bid at an auction in the past, and my heart felt warm seeing it. Perhaps marrying Ebony didn't necessarily mean my death. The next day, I went to the jewelry store to pick a return gift for Ebony's bracelet. I remembered that Ebony's beast form was a black snake with green pupils, so I picked a pair of snake-shaped cufflinks with emerald eyes. Even now, I thought to myself that since the Serpentkins had money and influence in space, what was there to be upset about? After I had paid and started to leave, I heard someone exclaiming in exaggerated surprise.
See, Sirius? Winnie's such a Tara. She had refused your slave markness just yesterday.
I turned to see Lola snuggling in Sirius's arms, while he was grinning slyly at me.
And here I thought you were a strong, independent woman, but you'll really do anything so that you don't have to marry a rogue, will you?
That was when I remembered that it was Sirius' birthday, and they presumed I was buying a gift for Sirius. He nutted in disdain when he saw the cufflinks I was holding.
Anyway, those are hideous, and I don't like them. Get me a pair of wolfish ones instead.
I frowned as I corrected him. These are for my fiance, not you.
Sirius laughed coolly as if I had just told him a joke.
Quit being so pig-headed already. You're almost 25. Who would willingly marry an old hag like you? So stop playing hard to get, or I won't mark you as my slave.
That was when Lola's eyes twinkled as she turned to the store next door, pointing and exclaiming.
Look, Sirius! You can brand her at the Slavers Hub. I really can't bear seeing her constantly worrying about her future, so let's just do her a favor and mark her now.
Lola, you're too kind for your own good.
Sirius sighed, tapping the tip of Lola's nose before wheeling on me haughtily and snapping.
Well, get moving!
Bestowing me a great gift and left before I could say a word. Right in the middle was a huge fire pot filled with burning coals and rows of branding irons with the worst profanities described. That was when we saw a slaver was pressed down with a red-hot branding iron on his back. Even the strongest beast tank would scream shrilly because of the pain despite his sheer muscular's bulk. Even Sirius cringed, but he said nothing, as Lala told a bodyguard to drag me inside. At that moment, I realized that the same Sirius, who had doted on me and protected me from any harm, was nothing more than an illusion. As for Lola, she was grinning at me in malice while clinging to me with a vite-like grip. Her usually delicate mannerisms suddenly vaporized.
It's all right, Winnie. I'll get you something real nice.
She looked around the hub and found one with the word whore on it. Giggling, she picked it up as she hopped toward me, exclaiming,
This one suits you best, Winnie.
However, Lola quickly covered the back of her hand, her tears instantly overflowing as she wailed.
You didn't want to marry a rogue, and I'm just trying to help you, Winnie. But you burned me instead.
You're such a vile woman. Lola kept vouching for you, but you do this to her? Apologize to Lola right now.
I stared at my blooded palm and suddenly laughed out loud. Sirius's heart tightened inexplicably, and a trace of panic showed on his face.
Why are you laughing?
I shrugged, not about to tell him that I was laughing at my own stupidity, forgiving myself so much grief, just so that I could retain the shadow. Every time Lola played the delicate maiden, they would believe everything Lola said without question, even if I was my parents' real daughter and Sirius's childhood spreetret. And she kept going, giving the impression that I was a wicked villain rightfully hers. I clenched my fists so hard that my nails dug into my palms, and looked up at Sirius with reddened eyes.
No, I won't apologize. I've done nothing wrong.
Lola suddenly sobbed.
Sirius, my hand hurts so much.
Sirius promptly turned without hesitation, and gathered her in his arms. Unironically fearing that Lola would feel cold in a room with a giant fire pot, he even ran to his car, grabbed a fox fur coat, and wrapped it tightly around her. My heart could break when I saw the fox fur coat, because it was fashioned out of my 8 tails. Because Lola didn't mind dying just to ruin my life, she had successfully didn't stop there either. The day when Lola won the Elixir challenge with my work, she said that she was cold, and Sirius pulled out that same fox fur coat to celebrate her victory. Naturally, Lola noticed where I was looking and smiled smugly as she stroked the fox fur on her coat, while pressing herself in Sirius's arms and complaining about the pain. Any hint of empathy faded from Sirius's eyes instantly, and he wheeled on me in disgust as he growled coldly.
You're not setting a foot in my house until you kneel and apologize to Lola. Let's see how long you can keep up that stubborn streak.
I smirked in contempt. He was going to be disappointed, because I was going to marry the future head of the Serpentkins in just 2 days. Suddenly, a car came hurtling toward us, clearly out of control. Sirius quickly transformed into his wolf form, grabbed Lola, and leaped away. The lichens had always been pain in my leg, a sprain, and closed my eyes in despair as the car continued streaking toward me. But at the very last moment, I felt myself gathered into a warm embrace as a man in a leather mask scooped me up in his arms, carrying me to safety far quicker than Sirius did with Lola. When I opened my eyes, I found myself staring into a gaze with a subdued emerald sheen, and quickly remembered the green and eyed snake cufflinks. Still, the man quickly put me on a bench across the street and disappeared before I could speak. As I reached to my pocket before I know, I found a box of burn ointment, and I looked at Sirius, who was dawdling and comforting Lola at the other end of the street, and smirked. I took his engagement ring from my bag right then and threw it down a hitch without hesitation. 2 days later, I was dressed in the bridal gown sent by the Serpentkins, days even as I looked around at the room full of priceless wedding gifts. That was when my parents hesitantly approached me again, asking me not to expose Lola's thief in public, insisting that it was a misunderstanding and that I should be more understanding. What last hopes I held for them vaporized instantly. I kept coming up with excuses to forgive them for not giving me anything for my wedding, the worst of it being that they had simply forgotten. Ironically, they remembered to demand more favors for their favorite daughter. Absolutely not, I snapped right then.
If you insist, then I will refuse to marry. It is either that, or you can bet against the Serpentkins' tenacity.
My parents were left seething, just as thunderous cheers resounded downstairs. I headed down and found Cirrus lounging in the main seat of the parlor, holding the same branding iron from 2 days ago.
Come on, Winnie.
He chucked sinisterly. You still have 30 minutes before the Bureau matches you with a rogue. Bow to Lola 1,800 times within these 30 minutes, and I'll burn you my slave, despite my misgrievings.
He paused, cutting himself short when he saw me in my bridal gown, and frowned as he growled.
What are you wearing? Are you trying to steal Lola's thunder again?
I looked at him coldly in turn.
I am about to marry someone else, but I don't remember inviting you.
Now's really not the time to be stubborn, see? Just talking has cost you 2 minutes, and that's 3,600 bows now. You better think fast. But if you still refuse, I don't mind using force.
He snapped his fingers, and several of his lackeys stepped forward, ready to shred my clothes.
Stop! I'm getting marked today.
Come on, hurt my wife. Just try it.